Sometimes the strangest part of a birthday is how hard some people work to make sure nobody turns it into a scene. They answer thanks too fast, say they do not need anything, avoid making plans, maybe even go to work like it's any other Tuesday. From the outside, it can look cold, ungrateful, or a little sad. But very often, that's not what's happening. For a lot of people, treating their birthday like a normal day isn't about hating joy. It's about lowering the emotional volume before the day starts asking things from them. You can usually see the pattern early. They don't post about it, they hope other people forget, they tell friends, really, you don't have to do anything. If someone starts singing in a restaurant, their whole body tightens. And the reason isn't always simple shyness. A birthday pulls attention into one place, and some people do not experience that as warmth first. They experience it as pressure. Because a birthday isn't just attention, it's concentrated attention. It's people looking at you, expecting a reaction, expecting gratitude, expecting some clear emotional shape from you. Be happy, be touched, be playful. Want the dinner, want the cake, want the photo, want the moment to matter in a visible way. For people who feel safest when they're allowed to stay psychologically unannounced, that can be exhausting before the day even begins. A lot of them aren't trying to reject love, they're trying to avoid performance. That's the part people often miss. Celebration sounds generous, but it can also come with a script. You're supposed to receive correctly. You're supposed to look pleased in the right proportion. Too flat and people feel hurt. Too emotional and you feel exposed. So some people solve the whole problem by shrinking the occasion before the occasion can grow. That's why they say, no, really, don't do anything for me, in a tone that sounds more serious than the sentence should require. They're not only managing the event, they're managing the social debt around the event. Once people organize something, buy something, gather for you, or make you the center of the room, you now have to carry their effort too. You have to respond to being seen. And for some people, being seen in that concentrated way feels heavier than being ignored. Sometimes the discomfort is about childhood, but not always in the obvious way. It's not just people with terrible birthdays or dramatic family histories. Even smaller patterns can shape this. Growing up in a house where attention felt unpredictable, learning that special occasions brought tension, drinking, conflict, comparison, or disappointment, getting praised in ways that felt performative instead of intimate, being the child who was watched closely but not understood deeply. After a while, special day stops meaning ease. It starts meaning emotional management. And even when childhood wasn't overtly chaotic, some people learned very early that their safest position was being low maintenance, not needing much, not asking for a lot, not becoming a burden. A birthday quietly threatens that identity, because now other people turn toward you and ask, sometimes very sweetly, what do you want? What would make today feel special? For someone who built themselves around having no needs that disturb the room, that question can feel much bigger than it sounds. There's also a very modern reason this day feels strange. Birthdays now invite public proof. Messages, stories, group posts, photo collages, comments from people you haven't spoken to in years. The day can start to feel less like a private marker and more like a visibility test. Who remembered? Who posted? Who texted late? Who copied a dry little message? Even people who don't want attention can still feel the strange mathematics of it. And once that social scoreboard appears, a normal day starts feeling safer than a symbolic one. Some people also treat their birthday like a normal day because they don't trust big feelings that arrive on schedule. If meaning has to be real for them, they don't like being told when to feel it. They'd rather have one quiet, honest moment than an entire day that looks emotionally correct from the outside. So they minimize the ritual, not because they're empty, but because they don't want a prefabricated version of closeness. This is why people who seem almost indifferent on their birthday can still be deeply sensitive people. In some cases, more sensitive than everyone around them realizes. They feel the awkwardness. They notice the imbalance between genuine warmth and social obligation. They can tell when a celebration is for connection and when it's partly for the group to feel like a good group. They pick up on all of it, and because they pick up on all of it, keeping it normal becomes a form of control. Control matters here more than people think. On ordinary days, they can choose how visible they are, how reachable they are, how much emotion they show, how much meaning they place on the calendar. A birthday weakens that control. Other people may call, appear, plan, insist, sing, post, tag, tease, or ask personal questions you would never ask on a random Wednesday. Even kind attention can feel invasive when it arrives as a wave you didn't design. And then there's the quieter layer. A birthday doesn't only bring attention from other people, it can also bring attention from yourself. Another year, another personal checkpoint. Am I where I thought I would be? Who is still here? What changed? What didn't? Even people who seem detached from the ritual can feel that hidden accounting in the background. Sometimes treating the day like it's ordinary is a way to keep that door closed. Not forever, just long enough to get through the date without turning it into a personal audit. This is also why some people seem fine all day and then feel unexpectedly heavy at night. Once the messages slow down and the performance demand lifts, the private feeling finally has room to arrive. Relief, emptiness, gratitude, loneliness, sometimes all of them at once. The public version of the day may have been small on purpose, but the inner version was never actually small, it was just kept under control. What makes this easy to misread is that the outside behavior is so plain. They didn't want a party, they didn't want candles at the office, they said dinner was unnecessary. They answered, "Thank you," and moved on. None of that looks psychologically rich, but underneath it can be a whole mixture of self-protection, privacy, sensitivity, old emotional training, social fatigue, and resistance to being turned into an event. And not everyone who treats their birthday like a normal day is carrying pain. Some people simply don't like inflated rituals. They feel more themselves in continuity than in ceremony. They don't need the calendar to temporarily enlarge their identity. They'd rather go on a walk, make coffee, finish work, talk to one person they trust, and let the day pass without an audience. That's not numbness. Sometimes it's a very specific kind of peace. But even then, other people often struggle to accept it, because celebration is not only about the person being celebrated, it's also about what the group wants to express. If you refuse the ritual, some people feel rejected, as if their affection has nowhere to land. That's why birthdays create such strange friction. One person is trying to stay emotionally proportionate, while everyone around them is trying to increase the volume to prove love. So the real tension is not birthday versus no birthday. It's private meaning versus public display. Some people feel loved when attention becomes visible. Other people feel loved when attention becomes accurate, when it comes in a form they can actually receive. A quiet call instead of a group performance. A thoughtful message instead of a room watching them react. A calm, ordinary day with one real moment inside it, instead of a large, organized feeling that never fully belongs to them. That's why this behavior often looks smaller than it is. They just don't care about birthdays. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes the person who wants the least fuss is the one feeling the most layers at once. They're not always avoiding joy. Sometimes they're avoiding exposure, expectation, disappointment, or comparison in the strange loneliness that can appear when a day is supposed to feel meaningful on command. A birthday becomes hard for the same reason many emotionally private people find other spotlight moments hard. The event is simple, the psychological demand is not. It asks them to be visible, legible, grateful, available, and maybe even reflective all at once. And some people can do that, but it doesn't feel natural. It feels like wearing a bright color that everyone swears looks good on you while you keep wishing for your normal clothes. So when someone treats their birthday like a normal day, don't read too quickly. It might be indifference, it might be restraint, it might be self-protection, it might be a person trying to keep a day from turning into work. Because for some people, the most comfortable birthday is not the one that proves they're loved. It's the one that lets them feel loved without having to perform being the center of it. What looks like a small reaction is sometimes just a quiet way of staying intact.